I will never forget the moment Richard screamed those words at me. "You are too stupid for this business." The entire office fell silent. 23 people watched as my stepdad, the man my mother married 12 years ago, fired me in front of everyone. I stood there, hands shaking, but I did not say a word. I just picked up the box with my personal belongings and walked out. What Richard did not know was that I had spent the last 3 weeks making phone calls. I had sent emails. I had signed contracts. And by the time he threw me out of that building, I had already moved every single key client and top employee to my own company. But let me start from the beginning, because revenge is a dish best served cold, and mine was frozen solid. Before we dive into what happened next, I would love to know where you are watching this from. Drop a comment below and let me know your city or country. And if you have ever been underestimated or disrespected by someone who thought they had power over you, go ahead and hit that like button right now. Subscribe to this channel because you are going to want to hear how I turned my pain into power and how Richard ended up with $800,000 in debt while I built something he could never touch. Trust me, what comes next is going to be worth your time. I was 16 years old when my mom, Linda, married Richard. My real father died in a car accident when I was 13. Losing him destroyed me. He was my hero, my coach, my best friend. After he passed, Mom and I struggled. She worked 2 jobs just to keep us afloat. Then she met Richard at a business conference in downtown Los Angeles. He owned a mid-sized marketing consulting firm that brought in around $200,000 a year. Not bad, but nothing spectacular. At first, Richard seemed like a decent guy. He bought me gifts. He asked about my classes at school. He took us out to nice dinners and made Mom smile again. I remember the first time he called me son. We were at a baseball game and he put his hand on my shoulder and said, "You're going to do great things, son." I felt something I had not felt in years. Hope. I thought maybe I could have a father figure again. But everything changed after the wedding. It was like a switch flipped. The honeymoon was not even over before Richard started showing his true colors. He became controlling. He criticized the way I dressed, the way I spoke, even the way I held my fork at dinner. He compared me to the kids of his business partners, to celebrities, to anyone he thought was better than me. And Mom. She always defended him. "Richard just wants you to be better, sweetheart. He cares about you." But I knew better. I learned to stay quiet. I focused on getting through high school and then college. I enrolled at the University of Southern California and studied business administration. I spent those years away from home as much as possible, burying myself in textbooks and internships. I felt alone, misunderstood, but I kept pushing forward. When I graduated at 22, I applied to several marketing firms in the area. I had good grades, solid internship experience, and genuine passion for the industry. I was ready to start my own career. But then Richard approached me. He said the family business needed me. Mom begged me to give him a chance. She said it would mean so much to her. So I agreed. I started as a junior marketing coordinator, making $28,000 a year, which was way below market rate for someone with my education. Richard told me, "You need to earn your place here, not because you are family." I swallowed my pride and got to work. I put in 60-hour weeks. I learned every single aspect of the business. I studied the clients, the campaigns, the budgets, the timelines, and the more I learned, the more I realized the company had serious problems. The processes were outdated. We were losing clients because we could not keep up with digital trends. The employees were unmotivated because Richard managed through fear and micromanagement. I started developing ideas to fix these issues. But every time I brought up a suggestion, Richard shot me down. "You do not have enough experience, Marshall. Just do what I tell you." 2 years later, I got promoted to marketing manager. I was proud of myself. I thought maybe Richard was finally seeing my value. But then something happened that opened my eyes. I had developed a digital marketing strategy that could save us time and money while improving results. I presented it in a team meeting. Richard tore it apart in front of everyone. "This is amateur work," he said. "You clearly do not understand how real businesses operate." I was humiliated. But 3 months later, Richard implemented the exact same strategy and took credit for it in front of the board of advisors. He presented it like it was his genius idea. When I confronted him privately, he looked me dead in the eye and said, "Ideas are cheap, Marshall. Execution is what matters, and you clearly cannot execute." I felt betrayed, but I swallowed it. I told myself things would get better. Mom kept saying Richard was just stressed that running a business was not easy. I wanted to believe her. But deep down, I started to feel uneasy. Still, I held on to hope that maybe I could prove myself. By the time I turned 26, I had worked my way up to senior marketing director. And that is when I landed the biggest client the company had ever seen. Apex Innovations was a growing tech startup, and I reached out to their CEO, Jordan Hayes, through a mutual connection. I spent weeks learning about their business, understanding their needs, and crafting a proposal that would actually help them grow. When Jordan agreed to sign with us, the contract was worth $120,000 a year. I was thrilled. This was my chance to prove I was not just Richard's stepson riding coattails. I was a real professional. I worked directly with Jordan. We had weekly calls. I built campaigns, analyzed data-adjusted strategies on the fly. Within 3 months, we increased their conversion rate by 32%. Jordan was blown away. He called me personally to say how impressed he was. I thought finally Richard would have to acknowledge what I had accomplished. But I was wrong. In the next quarterly meeting with investors, Richard stood up and presented the Apex success story as his own strategic vision that he implemented through his team. He never mentioned my name once, not a single time. After the meeting, I went to his office. I was furious but trying to stay professional. "Richard, I said I brought in Apex. I managed that account. Why did you not mention me?" He leaned back in his chair and smiled. "Marshall, I am the face of this company. Clients trust me, not some kid who got lucky. You do your job, I take care of the business. That is how it works." I walked out of that office feeling sick to my stomach. Things got worse from there. Richard piled more and more responsibilities on me, but my salary stayed the same. I was making $55,000 a year while the market rate for my position was closer to $80,000. I worked weekends, I worked holidays, no overtime pay, no bonuses, nothing. When my best friend Kyle got married, I asked Richard for time off. He denied it. The business does not stop for weddings, Marshall. I had to miss one of the most important days in my friend's life. Kyle barely spoke to me for months after that. Richard also started publicly embarrassing me in front of clients. During presentations, he would interrupt me and say things like, "He is still learning," or "Let me clarify what Marshall is trying to say." It was humiliating. At family dinners, he would tell stories about my stupid mistakes at work, laughing like it was all a big joke. Mom would look uncomfortable, but she never stopped him. I felt trapped. I did not want to leave because I knew it would hurt my mom. But every single day at that job was torture. I started having anxiety attacks. I could not sleep. I was falling apart. Then, one night, everything changed. It was late, around 10:30 p.m., and I was still at the office finishing a proposal for a new client. I heard Richard's voice coming from his office. The door was slightly open. He was on the phone, and I could hear every word. He said, "Once I close this Apex contract extension and secure the 2 other big clients Marshall is working on, the valuation will hit $2 million. Then I will sell the company and retire." The buyer laughed on the other end, and Richard continued, "That kid has no idea he is building my retirement fund. I will fire him right after the sale goes through. Cannot have him asking for equity or profit sharing." You know, I stood there frozen. My heart pounded so hard I thought it would explode. This was not just a bad boss. This was calculated. Richard had been using me from the beginning. He planned to squeeze every ounce of value out of me and then toss me aside like garbage. I walked out of the building in a daze. I drove home, but I did not sleep. I stayed up all night thinking. By sunrise, I had made my decision. I was not going to let Richard win. I was going to take everything he had built and turn it into my own success. The next day, I started planning. I researched how to start my own company. I looked into legal requirements, business structures, tax implications. I reached out to a business attorney named Gary Patterson. I needed to make sure everything I was about to do was legal. The good news, Richard had never made me sign a non-compete agreement. He was too arrogant to think I would ever leave. Gary helped me set up an LLC. I called it Marshall Strategic Solutions. I used my friend Kyle's address to register the business so Richard would not find out. Then came the hard part. I started reaching out to clients I had personal relationships with. I did not badmouth Richard. I just set up casual coffee meetings and lunches to maintain relationships. The most important one was with Jordan Hayes from Apex Innovations. I met Jordan at a small coffee shop across town. I was honest. "Jordan, I have loved working with you," I said, "but I need to tell you something. I am planning to start my own firm because I cannot continue in this environment. I would be honored if you would consider moving your contract to my new company." Jordan did not even hesitate. "Marshall, you are the reason we stayed with Richard's firm. He barely knows our business. If you are out, we are out too. When do you launch?" I told him I needed 3 more weeks to set everything up properly. He smiled and said, "You got it. Send me the paperwork, and we will make the transition smooth." I also approached 3 employees who I knew were unhappy. Sarah was the creative director. Marcus was the senior account manager. Priya was the data analyst. All of them were talented, hardworking, and completely undervalued by Richard. I met with each of them separately and made them an offer. I would pay them 15 to 20% more than their current salaries. I would give each of them a 5% equity stake in the new company. I would create a flexible work environment with remote options and profit sharing. All 3 of them said yes without hesitation, but we agreed to keep everything quiet until I gave the signal. Over the next 3 weeks, I also secured 2 more clients. A local restaurant chain signed a contract worth $40,000 a year. A real estate firm came on board for $60,000 annually. Combined with Apex's $120,000 contract, I had $220,000 in guaranteed revenue before I even officially launched. I took out a $50,000 business loan and used $20,000 from my personal savings to cover initial costs. Everything was in place. I just needed to wait for the right moment. That moment came on a Friday afternoon. I was in the conference room presenting our quarterly results to the entire team. I walked them through the numbers, explained the strategy for the upcoming quarter, and laid out a detailed plan for growth. I was professional, thorough, and confident. But halfway through my presentation, Richard cut me off. "Stop," he said. "Just stop. This is nonsense." I paused. "I am sorry, what part is unclear?" Richard stood up. His face was red. "All of it," he said. "You do not understand this business. You never have. You're just repeating buzzwords you read online." The room went silent. Everyone was staring at us. I kept my voice calm. "Richard, I have been running these accounts for 4 years. The numbers speak for themselves." That was when he lost it. He stepped closer to me, his voice getting louder with every word. "Numbers. You think numbers matter when you do not have any real strategic thinking. You are too stupid for this business. You have always been too stupid." I stood there completely still. The entire office was watching. 23 people saw everything. Richard was shaking with rage. "You are fired," he screamed. "Get your things and get out of my building." I did not argue. I did not defend myself. I just looked him in the eye, nodded slowly, and said, "All right, I will go pack my things." I walked to my desk. I packed my personal items into a cardboard box. Photos, a coffee mug, a few books. I walked past the reception desk, got into my car, and drove away. Once I was a few blocks from the office, I pulled over and sent a text message to the group chat with Sarah Marcus and Priya. It said, "It is time. Resignation letters Monday morning." Then I sent an email to Jordan and my 2 other clients. The email was simple. Effective. Immediately, I am no longer with Richard's firm. I will be in touch Monday with next steps for our partnership. Then I went home, poured myself a drink, and waited. Monday morning came. Sarah Marcus and Priya all walked into Richard's office at 9 a.m. and handed him their resignation letters. All 3 of them quit at the exact same time. Richard panicked. He called each of them into his office separately, trying to negotiate, trying to convince them to stay. But they all said the same thing. "We have accepted other opportunities." Richard had no idea those opportunities were with me. Meanwhile, I was on the phone with Jordan, finalizing the paperwork to transfer the Apex contract to Marshall Strategic Solutions. Jordan even referred me to 2 other companies in his network, which added another $100,000 in potential revenue. My other 2 clients confirmed they were moving their contracts as well. By the end of that first week, my new company had $320,000 in signed contracts and a team of 3 incredibly talented people. Richard's firm, on the other hand, had just lost 3 of his top employees and 3 major clients. Those clients represented 60% of his total revenue. Word spread quickly in the industry. People started hearing about how Richard treated his employees, and his reputation took a massive hit. Richard called me over and over. He left voicemails. "Marshall, we need to talk. Come back, and we can work this out." I did not answer a single call. Then my mom called. She was crying. "Please," she said, "your stepdad is in trouble. Can you help him?" I took a deep breath. "Mom, I love you." But Richard made his choice. He fired me. Remember, I am just moving forward with my life. She did not say much after that. I think she knew I was right. 6 months later, my company was thriving. We hit $400,000 in revenue. I hired 2 more people to keep up with the workload. We rented a small but modern office space in a good part of town. The culture we built was everything Richard's company was not. People actually enjoyed coming to work. Sarah became the creative director with real authority to make decisions. Marcus led our business development efforts. Priya built an entire data analytics division from scratch. Everyone had a voice. Everyone had equity. Everyone felt valued, and me, I was sleeping better than I had in years. I reconnected with old friends. I started dating someone new, a teacher named Amanda. I felt free. I did not dread waking up in the morning anymore. I actually loved what I was doing. Around that same time, I started hearing things through industry contacts. Richard's company was struggling, badly. After losing those major clients, he could not attract new business. His reputation was damaged. He tried to hire new employees, but he could only afford to pay low salaries, so he ended up with inexperienced people who could not deliver quality work. The few clients he had left started leaving because the service was terrible. Richard tried to restructure the business, but it was too late. The damage was done. He had unpaid office lease bills. He had outstanding invoices to vendors. He had taken out loans from the bank that he could not repay. The debt piled up quickly. By the time it was all said and done, Richard owed $800,000. He had no choice but to file for bankruptcy. When I heard the news, I did not feel happy. I did not feel triumphant. I just felt empty for a moment, and then I felt acceptance. I did not gloat. I did not spread gossip. I just kept moving forward with my own life. My mom eventually divorced Richard. She found out he had been hiding debts from her, lying about the state of the business, and she could not take it anymore. She called me a few weeks after the divorce was finalized. She wanted to apologize. We met at a quiet cafe, just the 2 of us. She cried. She told me she was sorry for not protecting me from Richard's cruelty, for always making excuses for him for not standing up for me when I needed her most. I reached across the table and held her hand. "Mom," I said, "I do not blame you. You were trying to survive too. I just needed to find my own path." She wiped her tears and smiled. "I am so proud of who you have become," she said. "Your father would be proud too." We started rebuilding our relationship after that. It was slow, but it was genuine. I even helped her financially so she could settle into a new apartment and start fresh. Looking back on everything, I have learned some powerful lessons. Richard's cruelty, as painful as it was, ended up making me stronger. If he had not pushed me to the edge, I probably never would have had the courage to start my own business. I would have stayed in that toxic environment, slowly losing pieces of myself until there was nothing left. But he forced my hand, and in doing so, he gave me the greatest gift: freedom. I do not hate Richard anymore. Honestly, I pity him. He had talent. He had resources. He had people who were willing to work hard for him. But his ego, his need to control and belittle others, destroyed everything he built. The biggest lesson I learned is this: your value is not determined by how others treat you. It is determined by how you respond. I also learned that loyalty has to go both ways. You cannot give everything to someone who gives you nothing in return. And sometimes walking away is not giving up. It is the bravest thing you can do. So here I am today. I run a company I am proud of. I work with people I respect. I have a relationship with my mom that is healthier than it has ever been. And I wake up every single day knowing that I built this life with my own 2 hands. Richard tried to tear me down, but instead he taught me the most valuable lesson of all. Sometimes the people who hurt us the most end up teaching us the greatest lessons. Not because they meant to, but because we refuse to let their cruelty define us. I look out the window of my office now, and I smile. Because I know this is just the beginning. Now, I want to hear from you. Have you ever been in a situation where someone underestimated you or told you that you were not good enough? How did you prove them wrong? Drop your story in the comments below. I read every single one, and I would love to hear what you have been through. If this story resonated with you, please hit that like button. It really helps this channel grow and reach more people who might need to hear this message. And if you have not already, subscribe and turn on notifications so you do not miss the next story. Share this video with someone who needs a reminder that they are stronger than they think. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate every single one of you. Keep fighting for what you deserve and never let anyone tell you that you are not enough. You are. Take care, and I will see you in the next one.